Inspired by a real incident. I found the story while researching old incident reports for a night shift I had just started. It wasn't in the news. It wasn't labeled as an investigation. It was buried inside a scanned municipal document from the late 1990s, listed as an irregular occurrence. The document described a small town located near a regional transit route that no longer exists. No coordinates were provided. Only a population estimate and a short note. Residents reported abnormal behavior following repeated overnight disturbances. At first, nothing about it sounded unusual. Power fluctuations. Noise complaints. People calling emergency services for sounds without a source. What stood out was how often the calls came in, and when. Between 12:40 a.m. and 2:10 a.m. almost every night. For nearly 3 months. The callers all described the same thing. A low sound. Not loud. Not constant. More like something breathing slowly through walls. Authorities initially blamed industrial equipment from a nearby facility. The problem was that no such facility existed. The town council records showed growing concern, but no action. Meetings ended early. Notes became shorter. Entire paragraphs were blacked out in later scans. Then the behavior report started. Residents claimed neighbors were standing outside at night, facing the same direction. No movement. No conversation. Just standing there until sunrise. One police officer wrote that when he approached a group like this, none of them responded. Their eyes were open. They were breathing. But they did not acknowledge him. Medical examinations showed nothing abnormal. The next section of the document was labeled unconfirmed escalation. It stated that several residents left town abruptly. Houses were abandoned with furniture still inside. Food left in refrigerators. Cars parked with keys missing. No missing persons reports were filed. The explanation given was voluntary relocation. But then came the first recorded death. A man in his early 40s was found dead in his home, seated upright in a chair. No injuries. No signs of struggle. The official cause was listed as cardiac arrest. However, a handwritten note in the margin of the report said, "Position inconsistent with natural collapse." After that, the disturbances stopped. No more calls. No more reports. No more sounds. At least, not officially. The final page of the document was added years later, stamped as an internal update. It confirmed that the town still existed. Mail was delivered. Property taxes were collected. But census data showed 0 permanent residents. The last sentence on the page was underlined twice. Occasional activity continues to be reported at night. No further explanation was given. The file ended there. But someone had added a note in pen at the bottom of the page, written long after the document had been archived. It said, "They were never disturbed by the sound. They were responding to it." The note at the bottom of the file bothered me more than anything else. They were responding to it. I tried to trace who had written it. There was no signature, no initials, nothing in the archive logs that indicated a later reviewer. The digital timestamp showed the note had been scanned along with the rest of the document in 2011, but the handwriting was clearly older. Faded ink. Uneven pressure. I searched for additional records connected to the town. There were none. No follow-up reports. No closure documents. No explanation for why a populated town had effectively ceased to exist without triggering a state-level investigation. What I did find were transportation records. The regional transit route that once passed near the town had been quietly rerouted. Not closed. Just redirected several miles east. No public announcement. Maintenance logs showed repeated overnight inspections during the same 3-month period mentioned in the report. Most of the notes were routine. Except one. Auditory anomaly detected during stationary inspection. Duration, 14 minutes. No further details. I contacted a retired official whose name appeared several times in the original document. He responded days later with a single sentence. "I'm surprised anyone still has access to that." When I asked him what happened in the town, he refused to answer directly. Instead, he told me this. "The mistake wasn't staying," he said. "It was acknowledging the response." According to him, the sound was never random. It followed patterns. It intensified when people noticed it. It changed when people tried to identify it. The residents who stood outside at night weren't sleepwalking. They were listening, he said. I asked him what they were listening for. A long pause followed. "Confirmation," he finally answered. In the last months before the town emptied, emergency services logged several unusual calls. Not complaints. Requests. People called to report that the sound had stopped, and that something was wrong. One caller said the silence felt unfinished. Another claimed the walls in his house no longer felt solid without it. The final recorded call came from a public phone booth on the edge of town. The transcript was brief. Caller reports hearing footsteps where the sound used to be. Caller states, "It's closer now." Caller hangs up. That same night, maintenance crews reported lights moving through the town after midnight. Not flickering. Moving. No vehicles were seen entering or leaving. By the time daylight came, the town was empty. No bodies. No signs of struggle. Just absence. The official conclusion was environmental stress combined with mass relocation. Unofficially, the site was classified as inactive but monitored. I asked the retired official why the town was never demolished. His answer was immediate. "Because nothing is abandoned there," he said. "It's occupied." I stopped researching after that. Weeks later, while working a late shift, I noticed something odd. A low sound. Barely audible. Not loud enough to be real. Not quiet enough to ignore. It wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from inside the building. And for the first time, I understood the note at the bottom of the file. They weren't disturbed by the sound. They were answering it. And something had finally started answering back.